here's your quick look at the second attempt to solve the problems in Northern Ireland. This was the Anglo-Irish Agreement in 1985, agreed on the 15th of November. It was as a result, perhaps, of Margaret Thatcher nearly being blown up at her Conservative Party conference in Brighton. She decided after that things were serious enough that she needed to deal with Northern Ireland and try and find a solution. The other reason was that Sinn Féin IRA had really gained a lot of support after the hunger strikes, and that meant a lot of support going to this extremist group. And they thought that if they could maybe solve some of the problems in Northern Ireland, it might win a bit of support from the nationalists, those who weren't prepared to use violence for the Northern Ireland state. So what they came up with was an intergovernmental conference. Now that is exactly what it says. Inter means between. So if you imagine I interrupt you, then I'm coming between whatever it was that you were planning to do or whatever. I'm getting between that. So intergovernmental is between governments. And that's between the Irish government and the British government. And they were going to have a conference. They also needed somebody to sort of organise all of that, decide where they were meeting and when, and send out the invites and organise a whole lot of the agenda and so on. And they were setting up then a secretariat to organise that. And it was going to have people on it from both north and south of the Northern Ireland border. They were also going to promise devolution, and that really means just a government in Northern Ireland, so it's Stormont, and they could have that if they agreed to share power. And obviously in Northern Ireland, if you're sharing power, it's between Unionists and Nationalists. So we will see that there are lots of reactions. Unionists didn't like this, that the Republic of Ireland was going to get a say in Northern Ireland. Nationalists were hopeful. They thought there was definitely a chance that their views might be listened to, especially if the Republic of Ireland had a say. Republicans were a bit cross, actually, because they didn't want Dublin, the Irish government, to even recognise that Northern Ireland existed. And the fact that they saw the Dublin government talking to the London government about Northern Ireland really reinforced that Dublin definitely saw Northern Ireland as something that existed. The British and Irish governments liked it. It was clearly their agreement, and so they had to like it. But some within the governments didn't like it. Mary Robinson from the Republic, the government there, she felt it wasn't fair to Unionists. And Ian Gow from the British government, he didn't like it because he thought it was only happening because of the violence, trying to blow up Margaret Thatcher and maybe the hunger strikes before. And he felt this was just people bowing to terrorists and giving them what they wanted because they'd been violent. So the Unionist reaction is particularly interesting, and it's what we see below with the little mnemonic I've come up with. This little mnemonic is really a reflection of all the things the Unionists did to show that they didn't like it. So, Richard did not break my red car and press undo. And you can see there that there was a rally at City Hall addressed by Ian Paisley and his Never, Never, Never speech. 100,000 people went there. Many people thought it was a diktat, that this was something that was being forced on them. Unionists didn't like what they were seeing, and so they'd promised not to cooperate with the British government. Some of them lit bonfires and had pictures of Margaret Thatcher on those bonfires as they were burning them. There were marches to the Secretariat in protest of the organisation that was going on to facilitate this governmental conference. The MPs from Northern Ireland that were sitting in Westminster, they resigned their seats. However, many people didn't really take much notice of that because there might be about 600 MPs in London. And if 15 didn't turn up, it wasn't such a noticeable thing. Civil disobedience as well, where they weren't prepared to set the rates for the houses. Each homeowner in Northern Ireland pays a tax to the government, and so that tax is called a rate, and they wouldn't set how much those rates were going to be for 1985. Then the day of action were peaceful protests by Unionists to show that they didn't like this Anglo-Irish agreement. And the last thing then or the actions of the paramilitaries to show that they didn't like it. And indeed, they so didn't like it that they set up a new paramilitary group called the Ulster Resistance. So hopefully that helps you understand why the Anglo Agreement took place, what it was, and the various reactions to it.